So in this mindful Pilates class, we'll begin with principle 1, okay, which is to become aware. And so I'd like you just to take a comfortable seat and tune into your breath. And then we're going to see if we can add these principles not only to our Pilates class, but to our daily lives in these next weeks to come. So find a comfortable seat, tune into your breath. Maybe close your eyes and let your mind land here in this practice with your body. Feel the breath as it enters your nostrils. Follow it down into your expanding lung tissue. Notice if your belly or low back move with the breath. Feel into your seat, your connection with the floor. And let mind and body meld together. So these are the 10 movement principles of Pilates. Here's principle 1, becoming aware. The first step into the wonderful world of Pilates, and every step that follows, should be filled with awareness and mindfulness. Be present in the movement with mind and body. In some forms of physical conditioning, everything about the environment seems designed to separate the mind from the body. Loud music, television screens, computers mounted on exercise equipment, and a myriad of other distractions. Pilates is practiced in an environment that stimulates and fortifies the mind-body connection, beginning with an awareness of the body. No one can address the process of realigning the body without awareness of its structure and how it moves. Often I will say to a client whose leg is not straight, please straighten your leg. And the client will answer, but it is straight, when clearly it's not. At other times, I'll adjust a client's head so that it sits at the center line of their body. And oftentimes the response is, that feels lopsided. Over time, we become accustomed to, she says misalignments, but I would rather say the word asymmetry, because not all asymmetry is bad. And the less aware a person is, the more severe these misalignments can become. That's true. We need to be aware that they're there. Until an off-center body feels apart, feels centered, and bent limbs feel straight. Bringing awareness to the body and the intricacies of movement establish a foundation for change. Without awareness, little can be achieved. So pause here in your seat. We want awareness throughout the practice. We build it through tuning into the breath, tuning into the joints, tuning into how we place the feet on the floor or the back against the wall. Let this be a practice of mindful awareness, a practice of concentration. It's not a practice of judgment of the body. Instead, it's a practice of reconnecting with the body more fully. So now, squeeze your fingers onto your legs for a moment. Press a little harder with the index finger, then the middle, then the ring, then the pinky, then the thumb. Now press all fingers and thumbs into the legs a little bit and feel into the hands. And then release. Float your arms out to the side and stretch your palms, palm to palm, across the body, palms out. Stretch your fingers wide. Feel from the palms, through the wrists, through the forearm to the elbow to the shoulder. Release the shoulders away from the skull. Let the hyoid bone rest back, the eyes rest in their sockets. And feel just this upper region of the body, from hand to hand, up through the shoulders, neck, and head. And release. Take another deep breath and feel the expansion of the lowest circle of ribs. Invite the breath to roll up the torso towards the collarbones. Release the exhale. Now invite the breath deeper into the belly and the low back. And release. Feel into the space inside your torso as the ribs move, as the breath fills the lungs. Feel for the movement of the diaphragm. As you inhale, it balloons down into the abdomen. As you exhale, it mushrooms up under the rib cage. Let your awareness reside in the upper body. Come back again to the head and roll your tongue across the roof of your mouth to where hard and soft pellets meet. And invite the hot air balloon to lift you from that point, lengthening the spine. And release the shoulders away from the lift at the head, long neck. Gently rest your seat back, lean back. Feel the front body turn on, and then gently lean forward. You may feel a little gripping in the low back. Come back and try to find that easeful balance place, spine above the pelvis, in its natural curves, broad across the shoulder girdle, shoulder blades gently hugging the back. Notice where the head of the arm bones is in space, the elbows, the wrists. Feel into the muscles of your face, down your arms into your hands. Let the hot air balloon lift you. Feel the spine lengthen. And then let the hot air balloon release you. And then let the hot air balloon lift you. Feel the spine compress a little and expand a little. And think how you could be just playing in this upper body for hours, noticing different aspects of your upper body, building conscious awareness. Okay, let's take this into the whole practice. Please come to standing. Izzy brought me her little hedgehog. There you go. Okay. Come to standing and begin to shake your hands. Shake up to the elbows. Invite space into the body. Shake up to the shoulder girdle and feel the head of the arm bones bounce in the shoulder girdle. Shake the arms wide. Let the hands dangle down, the fingers dangle. Feel into the jiggling of the wrist. Let the arms rise above you and let the hands flop a little bit. The knees bounce. And notice if you feel any tightness when you bring the arms overhead. Tune into that tightness. And then ease your arms either down in front or out wide, or bend the elbows and try to release the tension that you found. Feel into the space in the body around the tension. See if the space can begin to inhabit the tension. Shake the hands out to the sides. Just keep shaking them. Shake the arms down. And then circle the arms up to the left, high up overhead and down to the right. And feel how the tissue of the side bodies gets involved in the stretch. And today I'm going to have you stretch the arms as far as is comfortable. So for some of you, that may be bending the elbows and keeping the arms low. But if it's accessible to you, stretch high and feel into the tissue that's getting stretched gently open. Now, this doesn't mean we go into 110%, but we're just stretching the body open. Let's now take the arms to the right. Feel into the movement of the arm bones in the shoulder girdle. See if you can feel the shoulder blades on the back body. And bring the arms down and sway to the left and sway to the right. And let yourself sway and really sway over the hips. And if you can, point the toe and either almost lift off or lift off. Now, as we begin to move with more of the body, can you still draw your awareness into the body? And today, let the practice be noticing it, what your attention is drawn to, and then trying to notice something your attention isn't drawn to. So you may notice, oh, I feel my weight shift over my foot, but I don't really feel into my underarm, my armpit, or my rib cage. So I'm going to draw my attention there. Shifting side to side. Now, let the left arm shift out, lean, and lean as far as is comfortable. And then come back just to standing. And just lean. Keep both feet on the floor, lean. Lift the pelvic floor, lengthen the spine, and try to get the spine into a straight line, and then come back. So we have this tendency to lean really far, like that would be leaning over, and then I activate my low back. I want you to find that place where the spine is still long, the head is still over the shoulder girdle. Yes. And do that a few times. Leaning with a long spine, integrating that long spine down into the back foot, the foot you're leaning away from. Really ground the outer heel of that foot, the outer edge of that foot, and feel how that can stabilize you and how you can lift then through the back leg, inner thigh, up through the pelvic floor. Aha, we're building our awareness. Now let's come to center and let's lean right and lean right. Now you've already learned from the second side, but notice if you still tend to lean really far over and you start to feel strain in the low back side, I want you to come to the place where you can ground that back heel. You can integrate the pelvis and you're not feeling a strain in the low back. So you may not lean as far. You're aware of almost a counter energy with the torso away from the leaning arm. So you're leaning, but you're also kind of pulling back away from the lean towards the grounding heel. Yeah. Good. Now take that awareness into one side and then the other. One side and then the other. Yeah. And your knee can bend and you can flow and let it be as watery as possible. Yeah, there we go. Very nice. Now, let the left arm swing left and the right arm forward. Now, notice if you tend to follow the arm. So that might look like this, where we kind of lean. I want you to try to lean the torso away from the arms and let the movement come in the pelvis. So yes, it's a lean, but the torso stays more upright over the pelvis. One arm goes straight forward, one out to the side, and we're still broad in the shoulder girdle. So what I'm trying to help you do is create space and stability inside the movement. Space and stability inside the movement. Yeah, so keep that outer heel, step your feet a little wide and keep that outer heel that you're leaning away from grounding. Yeah, let the knees bend. Bend if you can. Bend and bend like it's a slight lunge. Good. And then enough of that. Let's come in and march. March. And notice what it is you notice in your own body. And march forward and march back. Make sure you're not going to trip on anything. Forward and back. Can you keep the heart lifted? And come back to center. And march the right arm up and the left knee up and pause. Pause. Now broad across your shoulder girdle, front to back. Long neck. And release down. Lift the left hand. Right arm goes back. Broad across the shoulders, long in the neck. And release. And lift. And broad from shoulder to shoulder. And release. And lift. Broad from shoulder to shoulder. And release. And let this upper body become full of space. Invite the sky into the torso. Feel the spaciousness across the shoulder girdle as the arms move. And let the arms kind of float on that space. Move through that space. Fluid. Now let your hands release and let the arms just lift forward and back. Now notice if you're lifting the arm back, is there strain in the front rotator cuff? Don't lift quite as far. Find ease in the motion. Fluidity in the motion. And then lift the leg and pause, the arms lifted broad across the shoulders and release. And lift the other leg broad across the shoulders and release. Even if you just lift to the toe and release. And lift to the toe and release. And float and float, float and float. And lift and hold and hold and hold and release. Lift and hold, hold, hold and release. Float, float, float and float. Lift and hold and release. Hold and release. Float, 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 float and lift. See if you can straighten the front leg and bend and straighten and bend and release. Lift and straighten and release. Straighten and release and lift. And even if you're on the floor, you can straighten and bend, straighten and bend and step down and lift and straighten and bend and straighten and bend and step down and roll your shoulders and float your arms up into your cactus. Step your feet wide and cat curl the spine, pinkies together. Pause here and take a deep inhale into the back body. And then exhale, relax into your cat curl. Inhale up the back body again. Have the wave of breath roll up the back and release the ribs away from the vertebrae. And then exhaling, relax into the shape. And one more time, inhale. And then exhale, open the arms wide, elbow stretching away from elbow. Release the shoulders away from the skull and lengthen the neck. Hot air balloon lifting you. Turn your palms out and stretch across the arms. Perhaps the head of the arm bones and elbows go back a little. Stretch the front chest open. Fluid breath. And exhale. Bring the left arm around, all the way around towards the right, and then open it back up. If any of you can't twist that far, just come as far as is comfortable and open back up. Exhaling, left arm towards right and open. From your pelvis, ground down into the feet. The lower body stays still. A gentle motion, noticing in your body where you need to stop and open. Take the right arm around and open. Feel the right shoulder blade move around the rib cage towards the outer rib cage and back onto the rib cage. Out and back on. One more time. Out and back on. And open your arms wide into a T. Straighten your legs and feel the space between your legs. Feel the space between your arms and your legs and your arms and the floor, the space around your head and neck. And now feel into the body, feel the space inside the body. Feel for space inside the body. And release your arms. Now keep aware of that space and flow to the left and flow to the right and float. Let's let the arms float up like they're being lifted by a wind. You're the fabric of the parachute. You're being lifted and lifted and lifted. Maybe even come to the ball of the front foot. You're being lifted and you're so light. Lifted and lifted. And there's space between the vertebrae. Space in the joints of the hips. We lift and float and float and float. And then pause the feet and float the arms up and overhead and back down again. Inhale up and back down, feeling with awareness into what tissue is stretching. Arms come back down, float up the other way. Inhale and exhaling. Perhaps if you have shoulder tightness, your arms are more forward. They're not quite so high. Do the movement that allows you to stretch slightly and create a feeling of ease inside the joint, not a feeling of pinching or compression. One more. And release. Okay, let's come to the wall. Please bring your ball. And we'll start with our back just against the wall. Just have your ball nearby. Back against the wall. I want you to feel where your humerus bones are in space. They're probably curled a little forward off the wall. Broaden across the collarbones. Rest the head of the arm bones back. Rest the humerus bones back. And gently press them into the wall, the whole length of the humerus bone. Breathe into the front chest. Root the tailbone and root into the whole circumference of the heels, the big toe ball mounts, the pinky toe ball mounts. And lift your toes, lift the arches of your feet. Draw energy up the legs to the pelvis. Hug gently the muscles of the pelvis into the bone towards midline and root back down into the legs. And lengthen up the spine. Broad across the shoulder girdles, pressing the humerus bones back, maybe with a little more strength. Check in with your knees that you're not hyperextending them in effort. And make sure that your feet are far enough back that your hips aren't being thrown forward, but they're not so far back you feel thrown out of balance. Yeah, and try to let the hyoid bone rest back. Okay, so you might nod your nose towards your mouth a little bit, lengthen the back of the neck. Yes, that's beautiful. Feel broad across your shoulder girdle. And then release. Turn to the side. Bring your arms in robot position against the side wall and broaden across your shoulder girdle again. Press evenly out into the side arm on the wall and feel how that creates pressure on the opposite side foot. Feel into that myofascial chain. What's connecting the pressure into the foot to the pressure into the arm? This is building our awareness. Don't try to change it yet. Feel into how come there's a pressure in the outside foot. How's it connected to the pressure in the arm? Now slowly begin to ground the foot below the arm on the wall and stretch across from that heel and buttock to the opposite shoulder on the inside of the room. And imagine you could press into an imaginary wall on the other side and bring yourself towards symmetry. And take a deep three-dimensional inhale. Exhale through pursed lips. Activate your transverse abdominis. Take another three-dimensional inhale. And as you exhale, activate your transverse abdominis. Also lift your pelvic floor. Lengthen up the spine. And one more time, take a three-dimensional inhale. Exhale, activate transverse abdominis, lengthen up the spine, pressing your arm into the walls, the real one and the imaginary one. And release. And roll your shoulders and turn to the other side. Grounding into your feet, broad across your shoulder girdle. Be sure to check where the head of your humerus is. You don't want it rolled forward. You want it in the middle place. And then press arm against the wall and feel how the opposite leg activates. Try to find the connection between that working foot, leg, hip, and the working arm and shoulder. How are they connected? Feel into your torso. Where does that connection happen? And then slowly begin to root the foot under the active arm. Broaden across the shoulder girdle and activate the other arm into the imaginary wall. Press out into both walls. Root down into both heels evenly. Take a three-dimensional inhale. Exhale through pursed lips. Activate your transverse abdominis. Take another inhale. And as you exhale, lift your pelvic floor. Take another inhale. And as you exhale, root into your feet, release your tailbone long, lift the base of your skull, and release. Roll your shoulders. Okay, let's do just a couple more here. Bring your ball up and place it between your shoulder blades at the back body. So now I want you still in a Tadasana stance, so your feet aren't way back against the wall yet, but your feet aren't way out in front of you either. So you're just standing with just a little pressure on the ball. And then open your palms forward, take them forward of the body, and draw the head of your arm bones back around the ball, and let the palms spread wide. Root again into your heels. Press your shoulder girdle broad. Root your tailbone. Check in with your knees. And then from the outer edges of your body, hug towards midline. Feel how you can create a container. Now invite breath to fill the lowest circle of ribs. Notice how your awareness is expanding inside your body. Invite the breath now up into the heart center on the inhale. See if you can relax the shoulders and head back around the ball a little bit on the exhales. Be careful to keep length and not go too far, but also invite opening of the tissue. It's part of why we stay here a while, to allow the tissue to find a new shape and inhabit it. Breathe into it. Feel it. Become conscious of this shape. And then exhale, release. Turn towards the wall with your ball and bring it right in front of your sternum. Bring your hands onto the wall, shoulders broad. From your outer hips, root into your outer heels and draw the arms down the wall, lifting the heart. Lift the low rib ring, root the tailbone. Draw the energy stocking up the spine, even up the neck as you lift your gaze slightly. Make sure you're not hyperextending the knees in effort. Draw the hands isometrically down the wall and then breathe into the new position. Now, those of you who don't back bend, you can stay really long in that low back. You can be lifting the low back rib ring and just very slightly trying to lift the heart center. Broad across the shoulder girdle, lift the base of the skull and release. Come back to your mat and let the arms just gently sway around the body. Let one hand come up and tap the lung, the other tap the kidney. And then release the arms and let them sway. Let them just go. And come back slowly to center. And pause in your mountain pose. See if you can close your eyes. Rest the eyes back in their sockets. Bring your hands up behind your head, interlace the fingers, thumbs at the base of the skull, and open your elbows wide. Now rest the head of the arm bones, bring the elbows forward, and rest the head of the arm bones back into the socket, and then open the elbows again. See if you can stretch across the chest and shoulders. Now, if this isn't comfortable for you, come back to goalposts. A fluid breath. Now lift the base of your skull as you root your tailbone. Lift your low rib ring away from the pelvis. Lift the heart center, resting the head gently back onto the hands. Breathe space into any tight spaces. See if you can release into spaciousness, even where it's tight. And release the elbows forward and release the arms and pick up your hand weights. Float the hands up in front of you, palm facing palm. Lean back into your heels, lean the base of the skull back. Keep in the back plane of the body. Try to stay aware of the back as you open the arms and bring the hands down by your sides. And inhale, and open, and exhale, and inhale, open, and exhale. Lift the arms to parallel or a little lower if that feels best in your shoulder girdle. But those of you who have a little more range of motion can lift the arms higher. It's going to challenge your balance, not to throw the pelvis forward or the knee joint back. Stay very aware of keeping a neutral knee and a neutral pelvis. Leaning back into the back body, rooting the whole circumference of the heels. Now inhale the arms up and release them down towards the hips and float them to a T and bring the palms together and down. And inhale and close and down. And inhale, your hands may have to open forward to get higher than parallel. Rooting through the heels. I want to watch you. And remember, you can do all this work without hand weights. But I want you to stay firm in your heels, grounded in your tailbone. And release the hands down and float your arms up. Float to the left and center. Now think of the work we did earlier in the practice, where you're leaning a little back away from the arm and leg that are moving to the side. So you're keeping the torso more towards the center line of the body. Yes, not leaning out away. That protects the lower back. Ground the back heel. Good. So you can stay with that grounded feeling or come in and take your left toes out and inhale your snow angel and exhale, release. And inhale, lengthen and release. See if you cannot lean over the leg, but lengthen skyward with the head. Yes, beautiful. Lifting and releasing. And one more, lift and release. Take it to the other side, toe out. We inhale and exhale. Really find that length and release. Can your mind become aware of the whole body in motion? Or do you tune into one part of the body? And if so, see if you can bring consciousness to another part. One more. And release. Now draw the left knee forward and release. Draw it a little higher and release. Draw it a little higher and release. Right foot to the toe. And maybe to the toe and it just lifts off. And then lift the knee and release. Oh, one and lower, two and lower, three and lower, and one and lower, two and lower, three and lower, and one, lower, two, lower, and switch. One, lower, 2, lower, and lift and lower, other side, lower, lift and lower, other side, lower. Now lift just to the toe, turn the knee out and in, out and in, one more, and in and lower. That's good work on external rotation. Now, as you lift to the other toe, hug in the buttock, the opposite buttock, and lengthen up the spine, and open and close. Beautiful. Open and close. One more, close and release. Now, keep those outer banks of the river hugging in if you want to lift higher, and open and close and open and close. One more, close and release. Ground and lift. Hug the banks of your river, even as you open and close, open and close, open and close and release. Now lift the left to the knee. See if you can lift and circle and circle and circle and circle. Beautiful. Try the right. Lift and circle. 2, 3, and 4. Now lift the knee out and circle in. 2, 3, and 4. And lift the knee out. So hug the glute in on the standing leg. Circle. 2, 3, and 4. And lift your arms to a T and float up to the balls of the feet. And lower one heel, bend the opposite knee, and switch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Come to both heels and circle the arms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Other way. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Other way. And lift to one toe, lower one heel, and circle and switch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Reverse. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Bring your palms together. Well, let's actually turn palms down. Lift one arm skyward. Stay long in your spine. Lean slightly back. Lower. Lift the other arm and lower. Lift both arms and release. Let's hinge slightly forward. Now really activate your front abdominal core. Keep your front ribs slightly towards your hip pointers and lift your arm bones. Broad across the shoulder girdle. Imagine the wall behind you. And then open your arms and hold. Broad across the shoulder girdle. Broad across the back shoulders. Long in the arms from shoulder to knuckles. Fluid, three-dimensional breath. Can you bend a little lower? Bend a little lower, working your quads. And release the arms and straighten up and roll the shoulders. And bend the knees and hinge forward. Bend the elbows, straighten the arms back. Broad across the shoulder girdle. Breathe into the space inside your torso. And maybe bend a little lower. And lift one heel and lower it, lift the other and switch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And release the arms and lift up and roll the shoulders. Okay, let's come to the floor. Have your ball blocker oof and your long TheraBand. And lay on your back in constructive rest. Now find the broad across your shoulder girdle. In fact, let's bring our arms into robot arm position and gently press the whole length of the humerus bone back. So imagine the wall, the work we just did. Now imagine there's a wall on each side of you and press the outer arms into those walls, broadening. And then gently hug the center line from the arms down the side bodies, the hips down the side legs. Don't collapse anything together, just hug the outer banks in. Or root your feet. And if you need to draw the heels closer to the sit bones, do. And then lift the pelvis. And lift the right buttock higher than the left. Really use the right glute to lift it, but keep your bank of your river hugging in. And switch. Left hip lifts and lowers. Right and left. And sway at your own pace back and forth. Broad across the shoulder girdle. You have a natural curve to the cervical spine of the neck as you sway your hips. Your eyes can rest back in their sockets, your face and jaw relax, but the arms and shoulders are relatively active, and the buttocks are taking turns, lifting and releasing, lifting and releasing. Come to center and lift the whole pelvis. Hug the banks of your river in, hug the pelvic floor up into the body, and gently lower the pelvis towards the floor and lift and lower and lift. Exhale and inhale. Float the pelvis down and up, down and up. Fluid breath. And then float it up and pulse. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And lower down. And rock tailbone towards earth and tailbone towards sky. Earth and sky. Earth and sky. And come into your neutral spine. Release your arms on the mat, palms up. And let the head of the arm bones rest back wide. Now nod your head no. And make sure there's space in the cervical spine. Your gaze is perpendicular to the floor. And float one leg to tabletop. Stay really broad in the shoulder girdle. Float that foot light as a feather back to the floor. Float the other leg up. Now remember, if your lumbar spine is flat here and touching the floor, you can lift your pelvis onto a folded blanket. So we exhale up and we inhale down. Really let the arms be resting back. This is postural alignment work. So really, if you want to think about it, it's like the standing work we were doing where we were marching and lifting the knee. But you're really conscious of the back body on the floor. The chin doesn't want to be jutting skyward. If it is, then put a blanket under your head. And then float one leg up and join it with the other. Stay broad across the shoulders and grounded. Now open shin away from shin and hug them together. Open and hug, open and hug. With the arms still really heavy on the ground, hug the legs together, draw the knees towards your chest. Open the legs wide, draw the toes towards the foot of the mat, and draw your circles. The arms stay on the floor. Bring your awareness to the head of the arm bones. It may want to circle up as your legs move away from the body. Try instead to keep it grounded, to keep your low rib rings in connection with your hip pointers. Come up the center line and go down the center line and open the legs in circle. And remember, these circles can stay very small. You could be drawing a tennis ball or a Gertie ball or a yoga ball. One more circle. And then hug the legs together, outer hips hugging in. Create the banks of your river and open the right leg to the right. And exhale it to center. Keep all the rest of the body very still. Right leg opens and closes. The rest of the body doesn't even tremor when the right leg gets to the end range. You only go as far as the body can stay still. One more. And then take the other side. Left leg opens and comes in. Try to stay aware of the banks, the outer banks of your river as you work. Aha. Really good job, Katie. You're staying very stable. I have good view. I'm looking to see if the other leg can stay very still. The shoulders broad and back, the nose nodding towards the mouth. It's easier to see some of you than others. Really nice, Susie. Keep the banks of the river supporting you and come back in. And float one foot to the floor and then the other. Reach for your ball blocker, oof, and place it under your sacrum. Now remember, if you have a pillow in, you want to lower the pillow so you're not putting too much leverage on your neck. Place your thumbs on your lowest ribs and your middle and ring fingers on your hip pointers. Okay, these are the four corners of your square in Pilates. We want to keep the square from lengthening from fingers to thumbs into a rectangle. So keep that gentle hug, thumbs towards fingers, and float one leg to tabletop and the other to join it. And toe dip, one foot towards the floor and exhale up the other foot. Try to keep the square very stable, and that helps to support the moving leg. We create stability for fluid movement. And now notice what you're aware of here. And let your awareness expand. You've done this so many times. What is it that you know to check in with? Now bring the feet together, open the knees as wide as your shoulders, and toe dip the shin at this angle. Toe dip and come heel to heel. Toe dip, heel to heel. Try closing your eyes and just feeling the body, staying very aware of a still square. And remember, you can stay with these exercises if some of the others become harder. Lift the legs straight, come into your Pilates V, and very lightly tap your heels together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now zip up the inner thighs and hug in the outer banks of your river and lower the heels an inch or two and lightly tap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Zip up the inseam of the legs, hug in the outer banks and lower. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hug and lift to middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and hug. Lift to the top and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and zip the legs together. Create your mertail and take your feet wide and down the mat and together and up. Stay conscious of your square, staying still between fingers and thumbs. Come up the midline and go down the midline and open. Stay with your breath. This is mindful Pilates. Bend your knees and float one foot to the floor and then the other. Lengthen one leg out over your prop. Take your arms overhead if that feels good and stretch. Flex the foot and stretch the heel down the mat. Take a few deep breaths into the pelvis, relaxing over the ball, blocker, oof. And then step your foot in, lengthen the other leg out, stretch, inhale, exhale, fluid breath. And then come back in, lift up off your prop, take your feet as wide as your mat and open your arms either to a T or still overhead. Take your knees to the left and stretch through the right side body. Fluid breath. If it's comfortable, let your gaze look out over the right arm. On the inhale, stretch the whole fascial network On the exhale, relax into a sense of spaciousness. Inhale, expand into the space you created. And exhale, release fascial tension. Feel into your body. Notice what you notice. And invite your consciousness to expand to new places. And then after your next exhale, float the knees back up and switch sides. Lengthening now the back left side body as the knees are right. Inhaling the length of the spine. Exhaling, relaxing the shoulders and hips. Inhaling, stretching the whole fascia of the left side body. And then exhaling into a spaciousness that you've created. Really rest your mind in concentration on what you're sensing in the body. And then come back to neutral. Release your arms and roll yourselves over onto your sides. Okay, let's do just a little side lying work here today. We'll do gentle side lying. Bring in your pillow over your arm or beneath your head with your arm perpendicular to the body, or bring your hand under your head, whichever works best for you. Your sacrum and your shoulders are aligned as best they can be along the back of your mat so that you're not kind of cat curled forward. And your top hip is over your bottom hip. You're in a clamshell position with your heels lined up with your sit bones. And let's begin with the top hand resting right in front of the core, pressing on the ground. And lift your feet and open your knees and close the knees and open. Now, any of you who can't do side lying can come to standing. You could do this work standing on a block at the wall. Open and close, open and close, and one more. And then notice the trajectory of your femur bones. Keep that trajectory and lengthen the legs. So they're kind of out at an angle. They're not straight down the mat. And float the pinky and heel up and down. And inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. One more. Point your toe and circle. 2, 3, other way. Oh, 1, 2, and 3. Now flex and draw the heel back. Lengthen right out like you could pull the femur bone out of the hip socket. And then kick forward. Flex, the heel comes down, point and kick forward. And try to have the movement come in the femur bone at the hip. Feel if your lumbar spine is following you. Try not to have it follow. And one more. And then bend your knees, come up onto your forearm, and rainbow the arm up overhead, side plank. And lift back up. And if you'd like, rainbow and lift the pelvis, stretching over and pause. Breathe into the upper side body, letting it stretch open as you strengthen the lower arm. And release. And let's take it to the other side. Clamshell position, back body against the mat, against the back edge of the mat. Top fingers in kind of a spider position right in front of the core, pressing down to keep yourself broad across the shoulder girdle. And lift the feet and open the upper knee and close. And inhale and exhale. Now the upper body stays strong across your broad shoulder girdle. We've done a lot of upper body awakening, so use that consciousness here. And last one. And now keep this line of the femur bones as you straighten the legs out. Float the foot and release. Inhale And exhale, waking up the outer hip, the outer buttock. Think of tractioning the lifting leg out of its hip socket a little bit. And then point the toe and circle 2, 3, 4, and 5 other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These look good. Flex your foot, draw the heel down the mat, and it's like you're standing on that foot beneath you. Let it really traction out, point the toe, and kick forward and flex. Now really try to move right from the femur bone in the hip joint. Yeah, these look good. Don't let your lumbar spine follow. So that might mean the kick is smaller. That's okay. We're training the body. 1 more. And then bend your knees and lift up for your side plank. Remember, you can always roll your mat in if you need more padding. Elbow is right below shoulder or farther towards the top of the head. And rainbow the side body without lifting the hips. Feel how the underside body still lifts up and is active. And then come back. If you'd like to go farther, lift the pelvis up and rainbow the arm over and pause. And breathe into that upper side body, stretching it open. And then exhale, release. And roll onto hands and knees. And inhale a cow. And pause. Pelvis really lengthening away from shoulders. Skull lengthening away from shoulders. Now broaden your shoulder girdle. Broaden your pelvis. And then exhale, lift the navel towards the spine towards the sky. Press the hands away from the knees. Breathe into the back body. You can stay here or lower your sit bones towards your heels. Breathing into the low back in your cat position. Inviting a release into space on the exhales. Pelvis tractioning away from shoulders. Really feel into the sensations, pleasant, neutral, and unpleasant in your own body. Notice all 3 types of sensation. Root your hands and roll your toes under, coming into your downward dog. Bend your knees. Press into the hands and lengthen the side bodies. Hug in the banks of your river, and if you'd like, try to lengthen the legs without losing your lumbar curve. Remember, heels do not have to go to the floor. More important is a long spine. You can stay here, or you can float one leg up, keep the pelvis and shoulders firm, hugging midline, and lower the foot and lift the other. It's fine to stay on both feet. Lower the foot, flow forward into your plank. Flow back up into your downward dog. Forward into plank. Back into downward dog. Take another 3-dimensional breath. On your next exhale, blow out through your straw. Feel your transverse abdominis turn on. And step your feet forward. Bend the knees, come into standing child's pose. And those of you with the flexibility, keeping torso on the femur bones, lift your sit bones. Uttanasana, standing forward fold. Those of you who have the ability to come into the forward fold, let the spine traction out. Those of you who don't may take your blocks a little forward so you can find length in the side bodies. So you could bring yoga blocks in, or a chair seat, or a wall, and you could be here lengthening the spine, or here lengthening the spine. And then bend the knees, hands to the hips, and unhinge. Reach for the sky. And exhale the hands down through the center channel. And inhale. Draw in. all of the awareness that you created today. Draw in the mind-body connections you nurtured in the practice. And draw in positive energy for a wonderful wintry spring Wednesday. Thank you. Okay. How was that?